Welcome to the Guitar Shop podcast. This is episode 10. Coming to you from Wade's Guitar Shop here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm Wade Stark.
I'm Dan Hintz.
I'm Alex Ballard, and I'm pretty sure it's episode 11.
It's episode 10.
All right, I'll take your word.
Wow. Even more episodes than Star Wars. We're doing good.
Hey, everybody out there, check us out on Miro, iTunes, the Zune Marketplace. And definitely check us out on the website, wadesguitarshop.com. And if you have questions, comments... Here you go.
Someone feed the website, please.
If you have questions, comments, please direct them to wadesguitarshop@sbcglobal.net. Welcome back, Dan. It's good to have you back. I'm sorry you guys
it's good to be back.
had to miss episode 9, but we're happy that your stool is filled today.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at that.
I was gonna go into the Goldilocks and the Three Bears. My stool is still warm. You beat me to it. Anyway.
That's right.
Woo! Yeah, next time we're gonna be on HBO.
On the Blue Channel.
In today's episode, Dan is finally going to deliver his long-awaited...
You miss one podcast. All of a sudden you're full of stool and delivering.
There's a dentist next door. I think the nitrous oxide is bleeding into here. Dan is finally going to deliver to us his Boss DS1 mod that he had shot for us for the last episode. I have a little mod story myself, which involves the installation of this very cool little onboard digital tuner for electric guitars.
This I guess.
But along the way, first we are going to check viewer email, and we're going to take a look at a couple of headlines in guitar news. But let's see, our letter that we're looking at tonight comes from Matt in Seattle. Matt says, and we've been hearing a lot about Seattle lately. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
this whole grunge thing, yeah.
It's really an exciting new field, yeah.
Everyone in Seattle's like jerks.
Yep.
Hello, guys. I love the podcast. I'm a new guitarist in my mid-30s, and I found your podcasts to be very helpful. After decades of thinking I'm going to learn to play the guitar, I decided it was time to bite the bullet and actually learn how. At first, I found getting to my local guitar shop a bit intimidating. I hope we helped to alleviate that a bit. I knew I wanted to play electric guitar, but had no idea which gear to buy. I wasn't sure which questions to ask, and didn't want to look like a total idiot. Most importantly, I didn't want to walk out of there a target of overselling. After many Q&A sessions with my local shop owner, I picked up a nice lawsuit-era Les Paul knockoff, but after talking to many tube junkies, I'm really regretting the SS modeling amp I'd bought. Can you guys chat about good beginner to middle rigs, guitars and amps, for adults with a little more cash than your typical first-time teen buyer? I'm looking for something that will get me through my learning curve the next couple of years, but won't embarrass me if one of my friends who can really play comes over. Matt, Seattle, Washington. So a little more than the kind of intro-level practice amp kind of for the teens. What do you guys like, guitars and amp-wise?
Same time. Blackheart.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean,
affordable.
Yeah, I would say some of the
Tonality's amazing. I mean, they're an expensive sounding amp, but affordable. I don't know how else to put it.
Or the orange Tiny Terror thing that you have.
Tiny Terror is cool.
It's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
The Blackheart stuff's made by Crate. Orange makes a little mini. They make a combo now too.
Actually, I really like the talking about the Tiny Terror, I love the overdrive sound on the Tiny Terror.
Yeah.
But I think the clean sound leaves us a little something to
Tiny
be
Terror,
desired.
Tiny Terror, this guy right here is a head, right?
Head.
But
Comes
they
in a
do have a
combo
combo
now,
too now.
Oh,
yeah.
it's a Tiny Terror combo. Okay.
Um,
Ballpark price on that guy?
Dang.
that's
Super
$550
cheap,
just
but
for the
yeah.
head. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
And I
combo's
think
probably 8 or 9 or
The
something.
the 15-watt Blackheart is what? It's
For
$350.
the combo,
I think it's
3
more,
to 4.
Yeah, I think it's more 4-ish,
Yeah.
450 for the
Four,
15
yeah,
watt.
yeah.
5 watt I think is about 350.
I
for
do like
combo.
the
Okay.
5-watt Blackheart a lot though, because it does have a sensible, you get some clean headroom, and then you can 3-watt it and dime it and,
Right,
and
right.
get some good gain out of it too. But that's the nice thing about it. Actually, you can get some pretty good clean headroom. So.
It all depends on how loud I suppose you need to get at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Well, depending on the budget, a few episodes ago, we had an email talking about what were our favorite tube amps, kind of in the $200 price range, and then if he could bump up the limit to $400, we kind of had a different tier there. So I mean, if we're kind of in the sub $1,000 category,
Oh, there's a
and-
lot now.
and
Yeah.
maybe even said, well, between 500 and 1,000, what's cooler near 5? Because obviously the Blackheart is more around 5. The orange is more starting to push the grand area.
Right.
But like with the Blackhearts between the 5 and the 15, the ability to control the gain at any volume level, as opposed to with the 5-watt, you're just volume control.
Right. That's
so
true.
the distortion occurs just
And no
when you
channel
crank it up.
switching. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I guess on that note, it's kind of hard to beat the although the Fender Hot Rod Deluxe
Yeah.
is kind of a nice one. Or for that matter,
That whole
the-
series of amps I like.
Yeah, the Blues
it's
Junior,
not
the
for
Hot
everybody,
Rods,
but
yeah.
well, the Blues Junior is amazing.
Yeah.
I
The Blues
was reading an
Junior's really
article.
nice.
I don't know how many Noel Gallagher fans there are out there, the Oasis, but I was reading that his main sound and his main rig for touring is 2 412 Marshall bottoms with 2 different set Blues Juniors
Wow.
running through those. That's it.
Mhm.
I mean, this guy's making $1 trillion, and he could have any amp in the world, and he runs 2 Blues Juniors. So I mean, it's a huge testament to, it's a pretty unique sounding amp for Fender, because I think it's EL84 power as opposed to
It's a little bit
6V6 or
different,
6L6. I think we're going off tangent, but
And it was very nice of Noel to pop into our store.
it was. Here's
couple
the
years
picture.
ago.
yeah.
That's pretty awesome. But there's a bunch of stuff out there. I mean, so it's not like 10 or 15 years ago when you were pretty limited, and the quality of the tube stuff that was coming out 10 or 15 years ago was, it was pretty untested, because they were starting to deal with, trying to make affordable printed circuit board stuff. The early PD
And it was
classics,
still crazy.
were
It was still
struggling a little
expensive
bit.
considering
Yeah.
what you were getting. Yeah.
I have a V33 or V32 Palomino, if you can
Great.
find one of those, the Crate V series.
It's a blonde crate.
The blonde one, and they made those ones that Billy Gibbons was playing, the ones that were right after that were
The V
black.
the V series amps.
And the newer ones were not, the last sort of run of them weren't as nice as the previous
And those are made
two,
in
but,
China as
yeah.
opposed to were they? What were
The
they?
other ones I think were made in St. Louis, and then the Palominos
Vietnam.
they moved them to Vietnam, I think, and then even China after that or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I suppose, the long story short, I think the
the U.S.
non-Chinese
made
ones.
V series stuff was really good, and you can still pick that up pretty cheap.
Well, definitely don't rule out, too, used and vintage. I think it's pretty easy to go down to the local guitar shop and just look at the shiny stuff with the ribbons and bows on it. But, man, there's some great
Man, if you can find a
used and
Music
vintage stuff out
Man,
there. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Princeton,
what
forget
I
about
play.
it.
Music Man 210-65 from the 70s. It's like
and it's
like a little Fender Vibrolux, 65 watts. You can cut the power in half, 2 10-inch speakers. That is an amazing
I
little
love.
amp.
I've heard that amp, and it's gorgeous.
Mhm.
It's just great. Yeah.
We both like those all-tube Laneys. You can pick
Oh.
up all-tube Laneys. They sound like Marshall Plexis for
Yeah, it's like a little high
16th of the money. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
So
I'll
if
take
you
it.
can find an all-tube Laney for $200 and
Mhm.
sink about $400 into modding it and
Oh.
tweaking it, yeah.
Not even.
You
I mean,
don't
that's
have
like
to,
a
but,
back in black right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, depending on what kind of sound you're looking for. I mean, going from a modeling amp to just a straight-up tube amp, I mean, it's kind of not, if you want all of the features that you get in a modeling amp, you're going to have to add some stuff to the more simpler tube amp. But That's really the preferred way to go.
Before you pick out your amp, definitely watch episodes 1 through 9, because by the time you get here, you will definitely have multiple refresher courses on things you can do with the tubes and our favorite things in tube amps. What about guitars in the $500 to $1,000 range? You know, for somebody who's looking for something that's not only a great guitar to sort of start on, but, you know, an upper class one to start on. But, you know, the cool thing that he says here is, you know, something that won't embarrass me if one of my friends come over who can really play. And I mean, I think that's a big thing to a lot of people, is you want to have the kind of thing that when your buddy comes over, it's like, wow, man, you got a really great guitar and a really cool amp.
Right, they want to play it as opposed to like, ooh, yeah, you should have this set up, dude. You know, it's all, you know, broken strings and buzzing and, yeah.
I've been really into the Fender's reissue, the Mexican reissue stuff.
I have too.
And that definitely falls in, I mean, used definitely falls in between the $5 to $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that stuff is dynamite. I think Mexico has really hit their stride as far as quality is concerned and consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I'll buy a Mexican Fender any day. Any day of the week. Yeah. I'm dead.
Well, do you think Fender Mexico is finally to where Fender Japan was 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
I think, yeah, I think so.
Because that Japanese Fender stuff from
mid
'80s to early '90s was just amazing.
It was really good. Yeah, it was really good, and I think they're maybe even beyond that. I think they're even closer to where Japan is today. Yeah.
I think the best of the Mexican is as good as the best of the Japanese, definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely do.
So do you guys think high-end Epiphone or really low-end Gibson? What's your favorite there?
Low-end Gibson, definitely. Yeah.
Wow.
Get a faded series over a. I mean, some of those, like I like the Casino. Is
like
nice.
Yeah, I'd take a Riviera.
A Riviera, Sheridan. Those.
I mean, if I could get my hands on a Riviera, I'd rather have. In a weird way, I'd rather have a Riviera over a 335, just because 335 is crazy expensive, and I'd be scared to take it out of the house.
Yeah.
Riviera, I know it's going to be a really, really nice guitar. You know, it's going to play great, feel great, look great.
Yeah.
You know, and it's replaceable if anything, you know, catastrophic happens.
Well, do you guys find some of what I found with Epiphone, that there are certain Epiphone models to me that I think are fantastic. Like I loved the Epiphone Firebird copy.
Yes.
I loved the Epiphone the 3-pickup SG Custom was really impressive to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't even entertain the notion of getting an actual Gibson Firebird at this point. I mean, I don't even know if they make a new one.
I don't know if they do either. Yeah.
But I mean,
they did a few years ago.
To me, the only modern Firebird that exists is an Epiphone Firebird. You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like.
What, you got something to say about that?
No, I agree. Like, for some odd reason, whenever I pick up one of those Casinos, I'm always like, these are great. They just all seem great. I mean, unless they're just set up completely terribly, it's like they're pretty hard to fault. So yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. But it used to be where you could get a faded SG or a faded Les Paul special humbucking or one of those for right around what you could get a Dot or a Casino or something like that. But now I think
it kind of seems the price of
the
price of the low end Gibson has gone up a little bit,
and the price of the Epiphone,
because they went to China or something like that. And now they're doing
Les Paul.
They're doing the studios,
right.
But the Dot Studio, and that's like a $300 guitar.
They even have a 2-inch. Yeah, I think there's even one that's like
And you know what? They're not bad.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the weird thing with why the Epiphone Dot and the Epiphone Sheraton and the Epiphone Riviera are so great for the money is the original Gibsons and the Epiphone, the original 60s Gibson made Epiphones are laminated maple. I mean, they're not solid carved jazz guitars. These are laminated guitars
pretty much the same way.
by design. So I mean, you can make cheap offshore laminated stuff and hit it pretty darn close.
Well, that's a good point too that we should mention while on the subject. But I mean, we've done a ton of. I don't even know how many times we've taken Dots or Sheridans or, et cetera, and put antiquity humbuckers in there or 59 and then, and it really does make it amazingly close.
And that's definitely a reason why looking at those previous podcasts will lead him up to this point, and probably will have, maybe answered most of what he's asking, because, I mean, I don't know how many times we've mentioned, a decent guitar can take you a long way if you add your little kind of, I'm going to put a pickup here,
right.
That sort of thing.
And you start with a pretty good starting point and trick it out a little bit,
I think that's the best way to go.
Other things.
Do we like mods? Is that what are we implying? We like mods here? Yeah. So I mean, Matt, I hope that kind of gives you a good jumping point for particularly the amps. It sounds like you got a pretty good guitar, but should give you a great starting point. There's a lot more stuff, and you are welcome to email us or even, give us a call here at the shop. We're a guitar shop. We'll talk you through it even farther if you want the help. But thank you, Matt. That was awesome.
Cool.
The headlines I was talking about, which is kind of funny, going back to episode 2, I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was that far back, yeah.
Which was the one where we looked at the Gibson robot guitar, but also the Gibson lawsuit against Guitar Hero. Well, the lawsuit was just settled, and actually the headline that I first saw was on a tech website called Engadget. The headline was, Gibson loses Guitar Hero patent lawsuit, gets booed off stage. And to me, that was the first one that I saw, and it was catchy. Because, Gibson was, I think, really trying to get at something that not only was not a chunk of money that they were supposed to be getting. This really was not their design, but there's Gibson guitars in Guitar Hero, and eventually the lawsuit expanded to Rock Band. The second game, which allows, gamers to play drums, guitar, keyboards, vocals, and whatnot. So, they really started looking at this as something they wanted to get a chunk of, but they already were.
They already did. They have a chunk of. What they don't realize is every time you turn on, that's like trying to sue. Well, not in the same way, but trying to get a chunk of money out of like MTV. Because Foo Fighters are playing up.
Right.
They're getting so much free advertisement.
Exactly, yeah.
It's insane.
We've already had customers come in here who...
It's almost a biting the hand that feeds you sort of thing.
Yeah, it's not going to... But, we've already had people who've played the game, and didn't we get an email about that?
Yeah, we got an email from a guy who played the game, and he wanted to start learning to play guitar. And the guitar he bought in the game was the Gibson Corvus.
Yeah.
This really weird 70s Gibson that has this chunk cut out of it.
It looks like this.
I don't even know that.
No, wait, not that one.
This one.
Minority Report, okay. No, but he wanted us to help him find a real Gibson Corvus. He wanted the guitar for
which he would have never have known about.
Right.
Yeah. Had he not watched Guitar Hero. Which is hilarious. So, yeah.
Ultimately...
Gibson.
Yeah, it's not that I'm looking to be critical of Gibson. I love Gibson guitars. It's hard to really embrace companies that have gotten, kind of big and corporate, but they're still making some great guitars.
Yeah.
But, I would love Gibson to, and any kind of big corporation to be more like, putting out the good vibe and the good energy rather than saying, hey, I thought of that first.
Right. It just looks bad. It's kind of tacky.
Yeah.
Back at the time, it was it was about a year ago that headline first popped up, and when I Googled Gibson guitars, I think it was on the third page of Google results that instead of getting stories about Gibson guitars, it was all stories about the lawsuit.
Yeah, good press there.
Somebody once told me, if you do something good for a customer, they'll tell 2 people, but if you tick somebody off, they're going to tell 5 people.
Right.
You got to be...
It's true. It's absolutely true. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
They almost couldn't ask for a better scenario, just because, here's this game that...
Well, having the
video game, kids and video games. Our kids are way into video games, and here's like a guitar playing video game. It's like the perfect segue to... Mom, I want a Les Paul.
It's almost like if they would have just waited a few more years, they would have seen how this all is playing out. Like, I've mastered the game. The game is getting pretty boring to play because I'm just I actually want to do it myself, which is what we see all. I mean, that's the story that comes through here. We see probably 3 of these kids a week where it's like, I want to. He's been playing the guitar. He's really, and he wants. He really wants a Les Paul, or it's like,
they know.
Of course he does.
Yeah, they know the names of what they look like.
Well, let me just sort of recap the Gibson lawsuit. I mean,
anything, Gibson should be giving this company money for advertising their guitar.
Right. Totally.
What I mean?
What their complaint was that they had a patent going back to, I think, 1999, where they, maybe it was even before that, but it was a patent where somebody would put on a virtual headset and play an actual Gibson guitar and watch a video of a live concert and play along with it. And so their lawsuit was that they had invented that idea of this simulated concert, but what the judges basically said was, you're not playing a real instrument, you're not looking at a real video of a concert, and you're not wearing any kind of headset. Right.
Yeah. And even if you did, I mean, there's all sorts of virtual. I mean, to me, it's like it would be logical to assume that people are gonna want to play various video games, car driver video games, war games. I mean,
they've got a Ferrari in this video game.
Right.
Well, the crazy thing is, though, the other headline that I just read the other day was that Harmonix, the company who has created Guitar Hero and Rock Band, on their second game, Rock Band, they have just hit $1 billion in sales of Rock Band. That's about 4 years of Gibson's gross sales. And
they better be careful who they swat at,
Well, it's all. I mean, the other weird thing is, kind of in support of, not Gibson specifically, but in support of like a Gibson-like company is, here's Gibson making these American-made, wonderful instruments. These in some cases, really real pieces of art, and here's these games that are for the most part made out of plastic, made in China. And they've sold $1 billion in the last 18 months, and they're still rolling. It's going to be obviously a couple $1 billion by the time they're done. For some plastic made overseas that just happens to have these colored buttons, and everybody's kind of drinking and partying on to the Rock Band. But $1 billion for Rock Bands. That's pretty wild stuff. All right, we're going to move on to our stories. We're going to first take a look at my story, which is the N-Tune onboard digital tuner. Fairly new product. We haven't given one a try yet, but we got a demo one, and I installed it in a Strat copy, and let's... Hi. For the last 40 years, guitar manufacturers have been finding more and more things to try and build into their guitars. But what we're starting to see lately is a number of companies building little effects and mods to put into a guitar that already exists. In this case, we're going to be installing the N-Tune onboard guitar tuner. It's a little digital guitar tuner that replaces the volume control on most guitars, but then has built-in digital tuning into that. So we're going to be installing that into this Strat style guitar, and we're going to check it out, see how it works, see if it's the kind of thing we'd recommend or something we might actually carry and install here at the shop. So let's take a look at it. The N-Tune onboard digital tuner.
All
right, prepare the guitar. First, I loosen up all of the strings. Then carefully remove, in this case, the 11 pickguard screws from the pickguard. Now carefully remove the pickguard assembly from the guitar. In this case, I'm going to lay down a polishing cloth on the guitar and turn the pickguard assembly over onto the guitar so I can look at the controls. Now I'm going to dry fit the push-pull volume potentiometer. I insert it where the original volume control was. From the other side, measure how far the threads stick through the outer side of the guitar, which has to be a precise measurement so that the knob fits perfectly. Solder all the connections with a clean, hot soldering iron. Most of the assembly is pre-wired. Here is the actual control chip, which has a tiny set of wires, ribbon-style wires, that run through the top of the pickguard down to the inside to the push-pull potentiometer and to the battery.
Action is pretty high, and the neck is actually bone.
From the inside, double-check all of the
So
connections.
as you go up the neck, you're inevitably kind of squeezing it sharp and stuff. So that's part of it. And the two main things that I run into as far as tuning problems.
Lastly, install the battery.
Sets probably get beat up more than 12-string sets do. But
Standard 9-volt battery, which actually resides inside the control cavity underneath of the potentiometers. It does make changing the battery a little challenging, but it works.
Also, I'll put a little graphite.
Finally, replace the pickguard assembly,
Keep that nice and so that the strings kind of flow through there real nice.
and we're going to be good to go. So that's pretty much it for the install. Was not too tricky, too complicated, so let's give the tuner a little run through right now.
Monday 11 to 7.
Alright, there we go. That's the M-Tune installed, and I just want to quick point out that by the time I had finished it, I realized, being this was the first one, that I installed it backwards, and I was like trying to figure out how to tune it by looking at the guitar upside down or something. So I did have to flip it around. So it took me 5 minutes to. I initially installed it so that all the little light up things were on the opposite side when you're holding it, because when it's on your bench,
I see. It's kind of upside down. Yes.
Yeah. So it worked great on the bench until I picked it up like this, and I couldn't see it.
You're like, I can see it perfectly. Oh, now I can't see it at all. Yeah.
As long as the crowd can see that you're in tune,
yeah.
I think that's all that really matters.
Psst, psst. Am I in tune? Am I in tune?
You are in tune.
Perfect. Great.
But no, anyway. So they got the different colored tops.
You're right. You have the whole kit that gives you all the different colored knobs and everything, and I think they do a Gibson kit now too, so that you have the different colored speed knobs or whatever.
Oh,
but
yeah, you could do it on a tone as well. It doesn't have to be the volume, or does it?
Well, that's a good question. No, well, I think because if a qualified person is going to be doing it, because of the value of the potentiometer, you could really kind of adapt it to anything. You could throw a copy anywhere.
Because it's pre-wired the way it is.
I think the volume just is kind of obvious because it's the closest to you visually when you're holding the guitar. But it's the notes kind of wrap around the knob, so I mean, you kind of do have to turn it just a little bit to really see everything very clearly. Well, it's pretty ingenious, though.
It's a really great idea. Really great idea, and it works. It works really well, and I mean, aside from the turning it a little bit, I mean, you can see everything pretty darn well. And if you're in. If you're in the neighborhood of where you're supposed to be in tune, I don't think you actually have to really focus so much on the actual note. I think, doesn't it kind of just move?
There's a
and
green
you can see
light when you're in tune, and then red flashing quickly when you're out.
Yeah, well, it's like a lot of tuners now that are kind of going for that cheap, quick tuning solution. You go from red to red when you're flat, then it moves to green when you're on, and then it moves to the red over here when you're sharp. And the problem with any of those tuners is, I think at green, you have plus or minus a couple percent of where it's going to stay on green. So if you were on your low E, minus 2%, and on your A, plus 2%.
But on that one,
you're still in business.
It oscillates. The red light oscillates slowly. And as you get closer, it goes faster, faster, faster.
Right.
So once you get right up to green,
But even still, what I'm saying is when you hit green, the range of green dead on is it still has a hair of play.
Sure.
Every tuner that I've ever played with has that red to green to red.
You just don't have enough.
Right.
But I think that's more accurate than most ears anyway.
Yeah. Right. And the fact though, I like the fact that it oscillates red like that, because then at least like we had one tuner where it was just red, green, red, and you'd be like, you're out, you're in, you're out,
right.
In, out, out, in, and you just could never quite get there at all, Whereas this, at least, it kind of strobes as you get real close, and you're in, so it works pretty good as far as that goes,
someone had seen the display that we have of the N-Tune, and and they tried to get it off the counter, and it just wouldn't come. But do you see me? No, and he asked, you know, when you pull this out, you know, on the pedal type tuners, when you hit the pedal, it mutes your signal. And I said, well, I don't think it does, because
it does mute it.
You have that to mute it.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? But does it mute your signal when you pull it out?
We'll test it and we'll let you know.
I mean, but like I'm saying, either way, you know, it's like it's
well,
muted.
I kind of wish.
But, no,
right.
but if you turn the volume off, you're sending your pickups to ground, and there's no signal to send to the tuner. The tuner is taking the signal from your pickups.
Oh, so it's not. It doesn't. Get
I think it does mute it when you pull it
signal
up.
to your pickups. All it, you know, even when this is down, it's not getting like straight from the input.
No.
I don't want
See?
one.
No, but I on the one hand, it's not. I think it does mute. By the way, I think when you pull it out, it does mute, which is nice because it makes it officially a stage tuner. On the other hand, wouldn't it be nice if you could still see it when you weren't muted? Just because, like, once in a while, I've got my stage tuner, right, on the floor. So if I want to see if D sharp is D sharp, I walk over to my stage tuner. But sometimes you're flailing about on stage and you're nowhere near your tuner, and you just want to check, you know, your E sharp quick or whatever. Every once in a while I do a quick, like, something's out a little bit. Oh, it's my G. Here we go, you know. And you do a quick little fix. But with that thing, you could just kind of quickly, oh, okay, yeah, you know. I mean, but I don't think you can see it unless it's pulled up, and I think when it's pulled up, it's muted. So it would be neat.
Yeah, I don't want that thing flashing at me the whole time I'm playing.
Yeah, that would kind of freak me out.
Easily modded. We can make this thing do anything you want to.
A little bit of tweaking. We're going to put a phaser in there.
As a matter of fact, as we're sitting here, I just have this idea. What do you think of this? A push-pull switch. Okay, this type of switch on a guitar is called a push-pull potentiometer that has a double-pull, double-throw switch built into it. But what if, like, you could pull it out one step and then maybe pull it out a second step and then start rocking it different directions for different switches? Then you could have the Clapton mid-boost in there.
Right.
Yeah, the joystick would switch back
I
and
have
forth
4
between
amps,
the pickups,
one in each corner of the club. Yeah. The quadraphonic joystick panner.
That brings to mind the other advice I have for Gibson. Patent everything you can think of right now.
When you wake up in the morning, Gibson,
to anybody out there,
ask yourself, do I have my patent notebook?
Things that don't even exist.
Anybody dreaming anything up out there, patent it.
Invisible strings.
I patented a hat made out of sausage, but that's another story.
I thought that was a registered trademark. All right.
Woo. If you put a cartoon sausage on my head, Wade.
Your hat stinks.
Ooh, yeah. How old is that hat? Yeah. The old sausage hat is not what it used to be.
Cold, but it's fresh.
He's wearing the brat hat today.
It's like a beer hat, but the brats keep coming down.
Well, they're raw with a little pump on them.
You got the meat grinder on your head, and you just pour the sausage in there. And,
Let's see how long we can go on.
Go on, yeah. Sausage. We get on a roll here with the sausage. Yeah. No. On a roll with the sausage. Get it? Roll, sausage.
So everybody who just saw episode 9 before this, you know what you missed by Dan being gone. So let's move on to Dan's quick little mod here. And this is awesome because we discovered this about 2 years ago.
What's lurking inside this little guy?
One of probably the most sold distortion pedals in the history of guitar, the Boss DS1 Distortion, which for probably its first 20 years of existence was exactly as you see it now. But then you get some guys who start going in there and playing with the circuitry.
It's always the first one you buy and the last one you end up using. But
This is the quick tweak, and there are more advanced tweaks that we actually kind of offer in the shop, and there's even like way more advanced ones than we do. But we're going to take a look at this awesome quick tweak for the Boss DS1. Don't be afraid of it. Try it out.
Shop. Little Whitesnake video action for you. So on a normal day hanging out at the shop, we would mod our own pedals, which is what we're going to do today when there's no customers in the store. Everybody knows what this pedal looks like. This is kind of nostalgic for me because this is the last, currently the last DS1 I ever bought from Wade's Guitar Shop. And ironically, the very first thing I ever bought from Wade's Guitar Shop when I was about 11 years old, which is about 103 years ago, was this exact pedal, probably the same vintage. So back in the day and today, they still make them exactly the same. They're a decent sounding pedal, but they can be made to sound a heck of a lot better by just one simple tweak of the circuit board. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So if a lot of people have these things laying around at their house, and they've kind of moved on to other things, and boutique pedals, things like that. And there are companies who change and alter these pedals, and they get big money for them for doing these things. And I'm going to show you a quick way to alter this thing so it sounds a heck of a lot better. What the goal here, is to get a couple components out here. No soldering involved whatsoever. You're just going to take the bottom off. You're going to basically destroy two parts in the inside of this pedal. Two parts that don't need to be in the circuit. I'm not saying that they don't need to be in the circuit, but you can take them out of the circuit, and the pedal's going to sound more open. You're going to get a heck of a lot more output out of it. The downside to it, if you're into a huge amount of distortion and a real, kind of muddy sort of sound, it is going to cut back on the overall distortion a little bit, but what you're going to gain is a heck of a lot more tone out of it and a lot more output. So, kind of more like a strong overdrive out of the thing. I think it's a pretty neat experiment to at least try. These things you can get used for about $25 right now. So, it's not a huge gamble if you don't like the way it sounds. You can always have it repaired, and that'll cost you about $60. So that's a little joke. So at any rate, you're going to open up the back of the pedal, the 4 screws, take the 4 screws off the back. All you're really going to need for this sort of operation is just a screwdriver and probably just a wire clipper. So what we're going to do is take the back off. You're going to see a hunk of green with a bunch of silver dots on it. Don't be afraid. That's not the side you're going to work with. You want to flip it over and look at the side that looks like a small Japanese city. And what you're going to look for, all the components are laid out. I don't know if we can get a close-up of this. Capacitors have a C in front of them and then a number corresponding to, I think on a parts list they probably have the values. But what we're looking for is D4 and D5. Now you can spend a day and a half looking for them, but I'm going to point to them right here. I'll take a pen, and what you want to do is...
Hold it down under your light.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
What you want to do
Excellent.
is find the transistor, or this little black dot, kind of in the more center part of the circuit board. You're going to find 2 resistors, and then D4 and D5 are going to be these 2 little sort of glass-looking resistors or glass-looking tubes, and those are diodes in there. And those diodes are, I think, in the clipping section of the like the distortion section of the pedal. And what we want to do is just get rid of them. So, if you're going to do this, in a clean way, you can just unsolder those. You can find the pegs on the back, take solder off. But, for our purposes, I think, it's just as simple to, basically, you can destroy these, or you can just kind of clip, one side of the metal leg here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and show you the outcome.
Guys, nothing.
Nothing.
Thank you.
All right. So, 1, 2. Those components you can leave in there. If they touch each other, do something funky, it's not really going to affect anything. So I would just kind of leave them unconnected. So if you ever wanted to reconnect or wanted to know how to put the pedal back to stock, those guys are in there. But for our purposes, that's all you need to do. I mean, it seems kind of crazy that making a small change like that and thinking you're going to destroy your pedal is going to make it sound great, but believe me, it does. And I think maybe we can put some sound samples of a stock one and a modded one on the website or on the podcast here, and you can see. So I mean, long and short of it, open the back up, flip it over. D4 and D5 are what you're looking for. just get rid of those suckers. I mean, if you want to destroy them, you can, if you can't really get at them, you can take that wire clipper right on down and just crunch right through the middle of them. I mean, basically what you want to do is get them out of the circuit completely, and you're not going to hurt anything. If anything, you're going to make this thing sound like an old Marshall JMP. So give it a shot. All right, you may say that sounds exactly like how it used to sound, and that's because that's an unmodded DS1 we've got going right now. And I'm going to play that one a little bit. Then I'm going to switch over to the one I just destroyed those diodes on, and we're gonna hear a little bit of a difference, hopefully. So here's the stock DS1, and notice I've got the knobs on both of these pedals completely set the same way as to not deceive anybody. And let's see what happens. So this is a stock DS1. We're going to jump over to the one that has the diodes cut in it. And back. One you can tell almost has what we call fizz factor. Real fizzy kind of sound to it. Not a lot of mid-range, more of a distortion, more of an old sort of 80s style distortion. Switching to the next one, you can definitely hear it get into more of a realm of a, kind of like the modern day blues driver. But I think even yet still a little bit more natural and amp-like when you listen to this sort of thing. Almost has a tube sag to it, and indicative of a tube amp, it has a bump in the mid-range, which is real kind of desirable and nice and warm and organic sounding. So I think all in all, it's a win-win to eliminate those diodes from the circuit. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's a nice little trick, and it's really easy to do. So, like I said before, give it a shot, man. It's great.
All right, that was the first mod that we've ever done to a pedal in the shop here, and the first time we ever did it, I think we were all blown away by how snip, sorry to all the vasectomy guys out there, but snip, and that thing sounded amazing.
Yeah, that opened up Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes people almost kind of go, well, why doesn't Boss just do that? But
then again, you can't start changing something that you've made forever.
Right.
And I mean,
I described the OD3 the other day as kind of like all the butchering that people have done to Boss pedals over the years built into, this OD3.
I think that's the best. It's the best overdrive
that they make. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this gets you the DS1 mod gets you real close to that.
Yeah,
and I think that the clipping on it's a little bit harder edged.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I would say that the OD3 is more, it's a smoother sort of overdrive. Sure. But what happens with the DS1 is it basically turns it from a distortion, which is like a pretty dynamic fuzz, basically,
right,
into an overdrive, which is where everybody's going.
Yeah,
I mean, distortion was nice when people were listening to songs like Round and Round and.
But it still has a little bit of edge, like when you play solos and stuff with it. You still
it's more gain than an overdrive, typically.
Yeah. Less gain than a stock DS1.
I would say it's more like a
still
British
a high gain
style overdrive, like like an old Marshall or something like that.
That's what I have one, and that's the thing that I would I have occasion to use it for is if I want some definition in a higher gain lead. It's got more definition without being fizzy and snotty and sizzly like.
Well, what's really
like
alluring about it too is
modded form.
You can pick that pedal up, in the States.
Brand new for 40.
Well, brand new for $40.
$39. Yeah.
You can get one. I mean, that one I got used here for probably about $25-$30.
Right.
And as soon as I would have never have wanted another one of those until the mod came about, and I was like waiting. I'm like, we'll get a DS1 and see.
Yeah, and most people have a box of pedals that they're going to trade in at some point, and in there is probably a couple DS1s.
Well, and the other
don't
thing is,
sell them, just mod
don't sell
them.
Yeah. And that's the other
Open
thing.
them
Is
up.
most people probably won't sell them anyway because they're like, well, I'm not going to get a whole heck of a lot for them.
$8 for.
So there are tons of people, that at this moment have one of these at the bottom of some cable drawer or something. It's like, pop it open, tear those two diodes out of there. Done.
And you got a perfectly usable pedal.
Well, how many pedals are there in the entire history of electric guitar that cost about the same now as they did when they came out in the late 70s?
Right.
Right. And if you think about, the
I think
value of the dollar, it's gone way, this
Yeah.
pedal has gone way down.
I think the DS1 is actually even cheaper, isn't it? Didn't they lower the price at some point?
Well, I mean, my guess is
May
probably late 70s-ish when it came out. It was probably about a $39 street pedal, if they even discounted back then. I don't even know if people started discounting on stuff until the late 80s when, I'll go there.
It's a good pedal. It's a good pedal. And that, I mean, I think even without the mod, it's decent.
It's an okay pedal without the mod, but to me, it would be a non-usable pedal personally for my
I think that,
for what I do.
Well, if
minus the mod. Now with the mod, it's something I enjoy using. So
if somebody wanted to kick in a couple extra bucks and have you mod it and tell us about the mod that you do, and for like what, 25 or 30 bucks,
right,
you actually make this into switchable either between the original and this mod or a different mod, right?
The mod that I do, it's basically the same mod, except what I do is put a switch on it. Well, actually, no, I suppose it is different because instead of having those two diodes that you clip out, I put LEDs in there, and then I put a switch on it.
Which is also a diode, but
and
the common purpose for LEDs is just to show when a pedal is on or off. But they are still a diode.
And they operate at a different voltage, and so it gives you a completely different sound. And so basically, when you're switching the switch, you're switching it in one position. Those diodes are completely gone, so it's exactly the way the pedal is, that you heard and saw. And then when you click it back, it re-enters diodes again, but they're the light-emitting diodes that have a different voltage drop. So it's about halfway in between where it was stock and where the mod that I just did. So it's actually, I mean, it's like a two-stage sort of thing. It's like most people, after they hear the mod, they don't want it back to where it was, but at least you have halfway to where it is, and then all the way to the completely more open,
two usable tones.
Yeah.
It's nice to put the thing on the switch just so that you can hear what the mod does, really, which is kind of fun.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, if you wanted to, couldn't you have the switch jump back and forth between the diodes that are in their stock and the LEDs?
Yeah, you do that.
My
as well.
question for you is: do the LEDs light up inside there, even though you can't see them? Like when you close the refrigerator, is the light still on? Or no, they don't.
But you can only prove that mathematically. Yeah.
But only because I shrunk myself down to the size of a watch battery, and I jumped inside
I just
there
called boss
and had him play through
hey,
it. No, but if it did light up, that would be pretty
you'd have
great.
to make your pedal like clear, like one of those clear pedals.
Yes, because I think that the voltage that an LED actually lights up at is 5 volts, and to have 5 volts going through that circuit like that would just
make your guitar start on fire.
Fry a whole bunch of...
your neck pickup on your Paul Stanley Ibanez would start shooting sparks.
We'll do that anyway. Right?
Right. You'd have some trouble, basically.
Well, I mean, so if you do the mod, we're still in the sub $75 range, right?
Oh yeah.
And it becomes
even brand new with the pedal brand new.
Yeah.
I think it's 65. I think is what we sell it for.
75.
75.
No. Well, I don't remember. Yeah.
Make a deal. Make an offer.
Yeah. Call us up. Yeah.
It's a sub $75 hand modified pedal, and you know the DS1 is a decent functional pedal to begin with. But I mean, with doing what he did for free, experiment, make your DS1 into something even better.
And not only that pedal, but most overdrive pedals that have that sort of situation where they have a couple of diodes, you might have to. I mean, it gets more advanced, but I've done it with like the SD1, and I've even done it with the DS2, the turbo.
Mm-hmm.
They have the diode clipping in these, and you can rearrange and switch out diodes for LEDs and stuff like that. And that's the biggest way to completely change the character of. I don't know if I should divulge this, but the difference between a Rat 2, you ever see the Rat pedals, that the small one that it's not the Turbo Rat, but the difference between a Rat 2 and a Turbo Rat, the only difference is the fact that the Rat 2 has diodes, and the Turbo Rat, they take those diodes out and put LEDs in it. Exact same pedal.
Well, yeah.
So
and you can make that on a switch if you want it.
Yeah, and you can make a Turbo Rat out of your Rat 2.
You can also clip stuff out of distortion boxes and electronics that pretty much will make the pedal not make any sound at all.
Not work.
We found that out. So
you just go in and start cutting.
The battery connector. That's the first thing.
If you take that,
I'm like, is it the red wire
later
or is it the black wire?
Approach, you may run into some issues. Yeah.
Oh yeah, those are the easy mods.
Don't go in and just start snipping.
Don't take scissors and just start.
Just try to do a.
If there's the proverbial guy who has the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder,
the diode.
I've got two devils on my shoulders every single day. Before we head out of here, Alex,
I don't know how many of Wade's brand new pedals we've demolished.
They're all my precious pedals. Before we head out of here, Alex had the idea that we shoot out a kind of question request to everybody out there who is watching, listening, and here's our idea this time.
If I had a meat hat, would you? No.
Would you eat it?
Would you order it directly from Wade'sGuitarShop.com? No, our question to everybody, please send us information, pictures, comments about your favorite local guitar shops, and maybe we've gotten emails from people who actually work in guitar shops around the country and around the world.
Yeah.
You can send us information, or if you're just a local shopper at your guitar shop, send us things about your favorite local guitar shop, or maybe what you feel you're lacking in your local guitar shop, because maybe some of you only have one music store in your town, and it's not ideal. But we'd like to hear about your neighborhood guitar shops.
Or if you have stories about really cool things too, or cool mods, or just unusual stuff too. It's cool.
We'd love it. Send it along right here, down here, Wade'sGuitarShop.com, or the email address Wade'sGuitarShop@sbcglobal.net. We'd love to hear more, and we'll put them on the podcast. On that note, I guess we're out, unless you guys have anything to close with.
I got nothing.
Ditto. Yeah, you go sausage hat.
Sausage hat?
Come on.
Yes.
Vegan hat.
Good to have you back, buddy. Alex,
Vegan
good
tofu
job.
hat.
Morning Star.
Corn dogs.
We are lacking our good tech guy Ed tonight, so thank you, Jocelyn, for doing double duty tonight. You're amazing. So I'm
She's down, everybody, woo!
Guitar Shop podcast. We are
out. Whoa! Head here provided by
Hello, and thanks for coming to
your computer and turning it on.
We've been waiting in here all day for you to turn it on. Thanks for letting us out. Getting a little
Inviting us
here.
into your